Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, who never remembered the night. In the 1980s, Ozzy Osbourne didn't just have a drinking problem. Drinking was part of his image. Fans didn't ask if Ozzy was drunk. They asked how drunk he was going to be that night. After leaving Black Sabbath, Ozzy's solo career exploded. Albums like Blizzard of Oz made him bigger than ever. But behind the scenes, his life was chaos. Vodka was his fuel, beer was his breakfast, and blackouts were normal. Ozzy later admitted there were entire tours he doesn't remember at all. One of the most famous moments came when Ozzy bit the head off a bat on stage. He was so drunk and high that he thought it was fake. That single moment became a symbol of how out of control he was in the 80s. Promoters were nervous. Bandmates were exhausted. His wife Sharon often had to rescue shows from disaster. Ozzy once said that he didn't drink to party. He drank to survive his own mind. Every night, alcohol helped him calm the voices, the anxiety, and the pressure of fame. But it also nearly killed him more than once. Hotel rooms were destroyed. Flights were missed. Interviews turned into rambling nonsense. And yet, fans loved him more for it. Ozzy became the wild uncle of heavy metal. Dangerous, unpredictable, and somehow lovable. By the late 80s, his health was falling apart. Doctors warned him. Friends begged him. But Ozzy didn't slow down until his body forced him to. Looking back now, Ozzy admits it's a miracle he survived at all. In the 1980s, Ozzy Osbourne wasn't just drunk. He was living proof that rock and roll excess had no limits. Nikki Sixx, drinking until he died, and came back. If the 1980s had a face for rockstar self-destruction, it was Nikki Sixx of Motley Crue. Vodka wasn't a habit for Nikki. It was oxygen. During the height of Motley Crue's fame, he drank every day, often starting in the morning. His shows were played half-conscious. Interviews were forgotten minutes after they ended. In 1987, Nicky overdosed after a night of heavy drinking and drugs. His heart stopped. He was legally dead. A paramedic shocked him back to life. Instead of quitting, Nicky went home and drank again. That moment became legend. It wasn't just shocking. It defined how extreme 80s rock culture had become. Nicky later admitted that alcohol helped him hide deep pain from childhood abandonment and sudden fame. Hotel rooms became war zones. Bandmates didn't know if he'd survive the tour, yet fans packed arenas, watching a man slowly destroy himself in real time. Years later, Nicky would clean up and tell the truth. He said alcohol didn't make him creative. It nearly erased him from history. Axl Rose, drunk, angry, and unstoppable. Axl Rose wasn't always drunk, but when he was, the world felt it. In the late 80s, Guns N' Roses ruled rock. Axl's voice was legendary. His temper was terrifying. Alcohol made both louder. Shows were delayed because Axl was drinking backstage. Sometimes he didn't show up at all. When Axl drank, anger followed. Fans were insulted. Crowds were threatened. Concerts ended early or exploded into riots. His drinking didn't just affect him, it affected entire cities. Axl later said alcohol amplified emotions he already struggled to control. Fame made it worse. Pressure made it unbearable. Despite the chaos, Appetite for Destruction became one of the biggest albums ever. The madness somehow worked, until it didn't. By the end of the decade, Guns N' Roses were falling apart, and alcohol was always nearby when things went wrong. David Lee Roth. Party first, sing later. David Lee Roth didn't hide his drinking, he celebrated it. Van Halen's frontman lived like every night was New Year's Eve. Champagne, whiskey, and tequila followed him everywhere. On stage, he was loose, wild, and barely controlled, and fans loved it. Dave believed alcohol helped his confidence. It made him fearless, but it also made him unreliable. Missed notes, forgotten lyrics, and backstage fights became common. By the mid-80s, tensions exploded. Eddie Van Halen wanted discipline. Dave wanted another drink. The band split, and alcohol was a silent factor behind the scenes. David Lee Roth survived the 80s, but the decade burned through him fast. Bon Scott. The party that never ended. Bon Scott didn't make it out of the 1980s, but his legend started there. Before his death in 1980, Bon was known for drinking until collapse. Friends said he rarely appeared sober. Alcohol was part of his charm, his humor, and ultimately, his downfall. One night after heavy drinking, B. On passed out and never woke up. His death shocked the music world and became a warning that many ignored. George Michael. Fame, fear, and the bottle. George Michael didn't look like a wild drunk, but alcohol quietly controlled his 80s life. The pressure of fame, secrecy, and expectations pushed him toward drinking in private. By the end of the decade, alcohol became emotional armor. Years later, George admitted how much he relied on it just to feel normal. Whiskey and a top hat. And whiskey were inseparable in the 80s. Before shows, during shows, after shows, alcohol flowed constantly. Later said he didn't believe he could perform without it. By the end of the decade, his body was already failing. Steven Tyler. When drinking ruled the stage, Steven Tyler's drinking turned Aerosmith concerts into chaos. Lyrics were forgotten, shows collapsed, bandmates feared losing everything. The 80s nearly ended Aerosmith forever. Billy Idol. Punk, drunk superstar. Billy Idol's sneer came soaked in alcohol. Drinking fueled his confidence, but destroyed relationships, health, and focus. By the late 80s, the cracks were impossible to hide. The 1980s rewarded excess. Drinking wasn't a problem. It was marketing. Fans cheered destruction. Labels ignored warning signs. Many stars didn't survive. Others barely did. Looking back now, these stories aren't funny. They're warnings wrapped in legends.